What's up everybody, I'm Brian from I Want Tesla and I'm back from my trip. The last video I showed was Moab, and if you haven't seen that video, my Tesla Model Y went through a trail in Moab. The first part of the trail was an easy trail and then it went to a moderate trail because a change in two different trails. Jenkins Corners is the trail. You know, I've got a lot of questions from a lot of people, and one of the questions was, what was damaged? So I'm gonna take my car, it's outside, I'm ready to wash it and clean it all up. It's been a couple of days since I've been home, but I kind of felt like jet lagged almost, but even though I drove, it's kind of weird, but you know, being gone for that long and being on another time zone, actually 2 time zones over, is a little confusing to your body. I'm going to show you the damage that I see on the car, but you'd be surprised how little damage there actually is, I think. So as far as the body, there's no damage to the body whatsoever. No extra rock chips, nothing hit the car. Is just very, very filthy. It's very, very dirty. What happened because of the tent, right up here, the tent sitting on here, there's a rubber boot that sits right here. You can almost see the outline from the orange clay from Moab. This kind of rubbed and this was all wrinkled back here. So the vinyl on the top is ruined. I have pieces, I can fix this, and it happened every spot. This is a very minor spot, but it did happen all 4 spots. Let me show you. Looks like it happened more on the back because the tent was actually up at an angle and the wind was picking it up, and I think it was putting more force down. Now, there's no damage to the glass whatsoever. A lot of people were worried about the glass, you know, because the tent does not fit on, or does not sit on the glass. It only sits on these rails, and these rails, the factory rails, let me show you. I have the tent right up here. These are the factory bars from Tesla. Tesla rates them at 165 pounds, but that is at one spot right there in the middle before it flexes too much. Well, with this tent, this is a honeycomb core all the way around, so it is being dispersed, all the weights being dispersed into 4 spots, kind of far out. I would have liked them to be farther out, but that's where they are on the tent. No issues driving. Even driving at 85 miles an hour. Normally stayed around 75 to 80. Depends on the speed limit, but I would drive 5 over typically. So the glass, there's no damage to it. Karen and I both slept in the tent, plus the tent is 135 pounds. 0 damage whatsoever on the glass. This solar panel, I'm gonna go over this a little bit more in detail later on, but this company I contacted because they do solar panels for cars, for off-road vehicles. They have a lot of things attached to the vehicle. So what this does, this 100 watt panel gets routed down into a charge controller and then attached to the main, or I'm sorry, not the main battery, but the 12 volt battery. So now this is helping power up that 12 volt battery, so the main pack doesn't have to act as an alternator to power this, because I have a refrigerator, which is actually right here. This ICECO refrigerator, amazing refrigerator, really good compressor. You really get what you pay for with a really good compressor on a refrigerator. This is almost like a Yeti fridge, but it can be a cooler, it can be a freezer as well. So it's a 3-in-1. I'm gonna go over this more in detail in my review of this and how we used it. Attached to the 12 volt battery pack, I have, of course, this. I have a power struts, or the power frunk. I have a compressor in here for the tires. I have the refrigerator back there. I was charging an external battery. This battery here from Rock Pals, this is a 300 watt battery. I was charging that from this, also with another solar panel. But I had a lot of things hooked to this. Batteries for the cameras, for phones, also computers, all sorts of stuff was going off of that 12 volt battery, which gets its power from the main pack. So the thought process here is a solar panel that fits the Model Y, which is actually coming. This isn't the particular one that fits the Model Y. Figuring that this actually helps with range because the big battery pack is not charging the little battery pack. Anyway, this is not the end-all one. I had them send this one out for testing because I was on my long trip. I scanned the hood of this Model Y and I sent them all the dimensions, and they made one custom for the Model Y, which is really good. So this is really good for people that have a lot of things plugged into their car, or don't like the phantom drain, or you go camping a lot, or you have a cooler like over here and you have a lot of things in there and you don't want that battery pack to you don't have to replace that battery pack. With that being said though, let me show you what happened. I have a software update, but I got to do something else. I have to remove this first before I do the software update. It says right here, and it's been saying this ever since I went to the Tesla Bros the first day, 12-volt battery must be replaced soon. This needs to be fixed before the software update can be done. Now let me explain that. I know there's nothing wrong with the battery pack because I have a monitoring system that tells me what the voltage is on the battery. There's nothing wrong with the battery, but the reason that is popping up is when the refrigerator is running, it's pulling, on eco mode, it's pulling 54 watts. So what's happening is the computer's seeing, oh wow, there's something drawing 54 watts for a very long time, off and on. The computer's thinking something's wrong in the internal system, so it's saying it needs a new battery. I talked to the service guy before I left on the trip. He came out to do something to the car, and we were talking about all the stuff I have attached to it. And I guess I jinxed myself by saying I've never had any issues with the battery, but I still don't have an issue because this device up here is is the Lynx system, which runs underneath my seat here, and that's how I run my lights. I can run the compressor off of that, although I did just change that around. That is hooked up to the battery, and it reads what the voltage is. It fluctuated between 13.6 volts and 14.2 volts the entire time, and it still fluctuated the entire time, the whole 20 some days I was gone. I don't even know how many days I was gone, 26, 27 days. It stayed at that voltage the entire time. No issues with the battery. I'm going to reset this after I wash the car and then do the software update. On the inside, as far as dust goes, that's the only problem that happened to the car. There was a ton of dust up on the dash from Moab. I just took the compressor and blew that off. I didn't want to wipe that really because this dash scratches very easily, and this was a red dust up there. I just blew that off. I'm gonna take a wet microfiber towel, wipe that down, and be done with that. And same thing with everything else. There's dust everywhere, all over the car. I gotta put the headrest back on. But speaking of dust made all the doors squeak for some reason. After we left Moab, there was dust. I took the compressor and blew all this out, except for that hose right there. You can see right there. But there was dust caked in here, and you can almost still see it. It actually scored in here as the door goes in and out. And those were squeaking. There was dust inside of the joints here, probably inside there, all over, all inside the door. This was actually wiped down once. You can see the dust right there, get kind of open. That's kind of what happened when you would close the door. Dust got everywhere. It's still everywhere. But I haven't washed it yet. When we were at Moab, there was 20 to 30 mile an hour constant winds with gusts up to 40, 45 miles an hour. And there was these dust storms that would this car was filled with dust. So as we closed the door, dust would just come across. And now this is covered in dust as well. This is a satin finish on here, so you don't see it as bad, but this should be a little shinier. Now it looks like a matte finish. Along with the vinyl work, I had a solar panel on top of the tent. And I had the cords running down into the trunk area here. And I knew that would actually pinch here, but it just pulled the vinyl up on this section, and I'll be able to replace that. Also on top of the tent, I had a solar panel, a 100-watt solar panel. I used this really sticky tape that's made for solar panels to be able to mount them to the roof of an RV or something like that. Well, we got stuck in, there was actually a car fire, not a Tesla, but a car fire. As I left my brother's house in Phoenix, going to Flagstaff, we had to charge in Flagstaff to make it to the Grand Canyon. There was a car fire, and it actually caught the grass on fire on either side of the highway. So they shut the highway down. We were stopped for over an hour. And I think the heat from Arizona for a long period of time loosened up that glue enough. We were about 100 yards from the exit to go to the Grand Canyon, and the solar panel on top flipped back, still stuck to the back edge, but flipped back, smacked the back glass. Thankfully didn't break it, but it's a flexible solar panel, but it flexed too much and cracked the cell, so I ended up having to throw that away. But thankfully it did not break the glass, because that would have sucked, because I mean the trunk is already dented from before, but that would suck to have to replace that glass as well. If you haven't seen already, I drove from Charlotte, North Carolina, all the way up to North Dakota, and then I met the out-of-spec crew, and we drove electric motorcycles all the way across Montana to Glacier National Park. They ended up finishing all the way over to Idaho. That video will be out probably in a couple weeks. I flew my wife out to Glacier National Park, and then her and I drove all the way down to Moab. We had to go to Vegas because of supercharging, to my brother's house, back up to the Grand Canyon, and then back home, stopping different times. This whole trip I left on May 6th, and I got home on May, what was it, 29th in the morning? Something like that. Can't remember, but we got hotels along the way back home, but mostly camping. If you haven't seen any of the videos, there'll be a link up above. Now for probably what you're waiting for is the damage to underneath the car. I'm gonna get the jack. We're gonna jack one side up so I can lay on the ground and show you the damage. And I don't think there's much. I looked a little bit, there's some scratches I noticed, but I really haven't looked since Moab. I only climbed underneath it once after scraping a couple times and zero issues. But let's go see the damage, because I'm actually curious. Really, if it wasn't for MountainPass Performance and their lift kit and now their comfort coilovers, this trip would have been a disaster. It would have been really bumpy. I was able to use these comfort coilovers along with the spacer on top, and just the factory, or just what they recommend for the comfort settings was just enough, lowering this tire pressure down to 30 psi, which is actually really not low for off-roading. It's just low for a Tesla. Using these Martian wheels, Martian 18-inch wheels, that allowed me to get a bigger sidewall, which is a lot bigger than stock, but a lot bigger sidewall gives you more cushion as you're going off-road. So this was a lifesaver for this trip. It made it very comfortable on the highway, and it also made it comfortable on the trails as well. You do see a little scoring here. That is because these are oversized, and this has a positive offset, too much actually. In turn, cuts into this metal back here, and I thought I ground enough away, but it's just taking away this very edge of the ones that stick out a little farther. There's so much meat here, it's not going to damage the tire really. Same thing on the back. This is their comfort coilovers. These are adjustable if you want to do that right here, which is really nice. You can do plus and minus. I didn't adjust those, but it would be kind of cool too. But you can still see I brought some of Moab back with me. These tires held up pretty well, and again, I did just do 30 psi off-road. I'll talk a little bit more about that in the Moab video. All right, first of all, you notice there is a skid plate. I have a skid plate from MountainPass Performance as well. That is a thick aluminum, which you can see there's scrapes there. I did scrape on that a few times. That protects the front of the battery pack, because in front of the battery pack there's a little tiny plate there, but in front of that is where all the coolant lines are for the battery pack. You do not want to rupture those. That would be a very bad day, and your battery pack would be destroyed. You wouldn't be able to make it off the trail. You wouldn't be able to make it anywhere. So that is a lifesaver, because this battery's probably 20 grand. So that little bit of money saves you 20 grand. I do recommend that even if you don't go off-road. That thing from MountainPass is wonderful. Couple scrapes here. This is a rock scrape. This is just on plastic. I got to pull this off, get the dust out of here, and then put this back together. There's actually some rock still right there. But on this side of the battery pack, there's just a couple scrapes. This is probably the biggest one, and I don't even know if I did that there. That might have been another time. And there's another scrape right there, but they're very minor. There's really nothing. There's no dents, there's no dings, there's nothing that could be possibly protruding into a battery itself. I think this side's a success. So right now I can see there's a little bit of damage. We rubbed off on some rocks there, which would show barely anything. This has a little bit more scraping and a little puncture right here. But again, this is just plastic. This is easy to replace, or no one's ever gonna see it except for you guys. And same thing with the rest of the plastic. It's a nice little groove right there, and that's about it. So this battery pack is super strong. So the battery pack in these Model Ys and Model 3s is very, very strong. And you'll be surprised what you can do with these things. I mean, maybe you are surprised. Did you watch the video? You're probably surprised at what you can do. And got some souvenirs from the road. So all in all, really no damage at all on the car. Vinyl work, big deal. Scrapes on the bottom of the car, big deal. You're gonna have that in a gas car if you went through that trail anyway. So I'm considering that no damage whatsoever. These cars are amazing what they can actually do. So I am gonna clean that up now, get the car all cleaned up, fix the battery issue or the code on there, and do the update and get that thing ready because Karen has to take that to work now. So I'm out of a car until we get our new Model S. Hopefully we get it this month. As always, stay awesome, stay positive. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I know there's gonna be complainers about everything. Let me know what you really think. Is that really that much damage? Did I total my car? Did I void my warranty? That's another big thing. Everyone's worried about warranty. Did I void my warranty by taking it off-road? No. These things are amazing. Elon and the crew are amazing. As always, stay awesome, stay positive, and I'll catch you on the next one. I'm gonna go wash this thing.